and welcome into Cronkite Sports Live. I'm Braiden Bell alongside Jack Harris. And Jack, making your debut here today on CSL.
Right.
You got any nerves?
I think there's always some nerves when you're in front of the camera, Braiden, but I don't think I'm anywhere near as nervous as you must be right now, being a Dodgers fan. That team on the brink of elimination after that just gut-wrenching, soul-crushing loss last night. How are you holding up?
Well, I'm going to have to ask you how to deal with losses. I know you're a Diamondbacks fan, so you've dealt with plenty of those through the years.
Plenty of experience. Get over it.
But just like how this guy's having a big day today, Arizona State football, they had a big night on Saturday. It was the biggest home game for the Sun Devils in years, but it didn't quite play out like most people expected. Our Eliav Gabay was there and broke down the Devils' homecoming matchup with former number 21 USC.
The Stars were out in Tempe to watch one of the biggest games of ASU's season. Coming off back-to-back wins, Arizona State looked to take control of the Pac-12 South against the hobbled USC Trojans. Injuries didn't slow down this Trojan offense at all, and neither did the Sun Devil defense. USC came out firing early behind sophomore quarterback Sam Darnold and jumped out to a 14-3 lead. In the second quarter, the Trojans hopped in the driver's seat and never looked back. They scored 17 unanswered points until junior quarterback Manny Wilkins connected with sophomore wide receiver Kyle Williams on a Hail Mary to end the half. In the second half, Arizona State showed some life to start, but it didn't last, as USC junior running back Ronald Jones II dominated ASU with 216 rushing yards and the victory for the men of Troy, 48-17. Wilkins blamed himself for Arizona State's slow offensive production.
Got to play better at quarterback. Comes to third downs, I think going into halftime we were 1 for 8 on third down, and it's unacceptable regardless of what's going on in the game, regardless of the situation. I got to do my job to put us in the position to score points and ultimately win football games.
Sun Devil head coach Todd Graham tipped his hat to USC's performance.
They did a great job coming off. They came off a tough loss last week, and came in and just kicked our tail and out-coached us and outplayed us.
While the Sun Devils were obviously sluggish on both the offensive and defensive sides of the ball, what stands out most perhaps is their 10 penalties for 99 yards. That's very uncharacteristic of ASU, and they will look to clean that up next week when they play Colorado right back here in Sun Devil Stadium at 6 p.m. From Tempe, I'm Eliav Gabay, Cronkite Sports.
Well, to take a deeper dive into the Sun Devils' disappointing display on Saturday, we welcome back WCSN football reporter Ryan Clark. Ryan, thanks for being here.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
Well, there's so much anticipation building up to that game on Saturday, but where did it all go wrong for the Sun Devils?
Well, the ASU defense reverted to its old ways. I mean, the big plays that they gave up were just inexcusable. You got 60-yard runs, 32-yard runs, big passes down the field by Sam Darnold, who's an incredibly talented quarterback. But this team needs to limit the big plays, and they weren't able to do that on Saturday against USC.
Well, another big area of issue for the Sun Devils was penalties. Usually so disciplined. They were the number 3 team in the country in penalty yards per game coming in, but they were really bitten by the penalty bug on Saturday. What changed in that game against the Trojans?
It was just a lack of discipline, and Todd Graham and his players alluded to it after the game. I mean, it might have been a factor of the trash talk that USC is known for, apparently, within both their offense and defensive sides that led to those penalties, but ASU's just got to be more disciplined, and they have been all season. You look at their numbers, I mean, they've only had 1-2 penalties in every given game. I mean, they've been among the most disciplined teams in the country. So to turn in a performance like that is very disappointing for Todd Graham and company.
ASU loses. They drop to 4-4 on the season, a second conference loss. It's an uphill battle to a Pac-12 title, but at 4-4, do you see them being able to pick up a couple more wins down the stretch and get to a bowl game at the season's end?
I do. I think this is definitely the easiest stretch of their season at this point. I mean, they made it through that gauntlet of games, which is the hardest 5-game stretch of any Power 5 team in the country, 3-2. We didn't think that was going to happen. So emerging from that stretch relatively unscathed is pretty impressive, and these final 4 games are a lot more winnable. You look at teams like Colorado, U of A, Oregon State, UCLA, all of these games are winnable for Arizona State. So if they can at least split these, they're bowl eligible. And ASU is looking at a bowl game in its future, which early on in the season, I don't think any of us really expected that to be a distinct possibility after this Pac-12 schedule.
Ryan, thanks as always. You're not going to get any better insight anywhere else except maybe from Ryan and the rest of the WCSN football coverage team at CronkiteSports.com. Well, ASU football might have missed a chance at a special moment, but the word special wouldn't even begin to describe the day the Sun Devil soccer team had this weekend. For 3 years, Allie Moon had been one of ASU's most important players, leading the Sun Devil attack with her physical play and whatever it takes mentality. But injuries forced Moon into an early retirement this year, keeping her from getting on the field for any of her senior season. So, naturally, the leader on the pitch became a voluntary assistant coach off of it. Before the Sun Devils senior day game on Sunday, Moon was honored with her teammates one last time, giving her a chance to finally reflect on her career.
I don't regret a single tackle or decision that I made out on the field because, that was just a part of who I was and a part of my game. It was going in and giving everything that I had, including my body if necessary, to try to help the team as a whole. And so I don't regret ever making any of those tackles or decisions or going up against the keepers and getting knocked. Unfortunately it happened and it put me out, but I don't regret how I played.
While Moon had been forced to watch from the sidelines this year, her brother Derek had been on the front lines, in Okinawa, serving in the Marines as a Lance Corporal. Allie had not seen Derek in over a year, but he was at Sun Devil Soccer Stadium to celebrate with his sister on Sunday. The only catch? Allie didn't know he was coming.
Yes, Allie. Turn around.
I was just so surprised and so happy to have him back. It's been a year and a half since I've seen him last, and we're like super close, so it was amazing turning around and actually physically getting to see him and hug him was the best feeling ever.
Back in July when the schedule first came out, I contacted Coach Winkworth and I asked if he'd be able to work something in for the senior game or just the game against Washington, and just over the months he's just was in contact with the staff, and they were helping me as best they could while they were going through season. And then it just came out to the plan they were going to sneak you around the stadium, and I ended up hiding in a fence and then just walking out when they said her name.
Moon's team also celebrated the moment, winning its first game in over a month with a 1-0 victory over Washington. It gave ASU's 8 other seniors and its assistant coach a triumphant way to say goodbye to their home pitch.
A couple of weeks ago, we introduced you to some of ASU women's hockey players when we threw them into the Ring of Fire. Today, we focus on one, Danica Borges. A senior from San Lorenzo, California, Borges has worn the A on her sweater in the program's first 2 seasons. Last year, she was first on the team in assists and second in goals to lead the team with 11 points. Now, in her final season with the program, she's nearly matched her goal total from last year with 4, which ranks her second on the team. With more, here's Nick Batters.
Thanks, Braiden. We're now very excited to welcome Danica into the Cronkite Sports Live studios. She's a Cronkite student, and yesterday was her birthday, but she took some time out of her very busy schedule to join us. Danica, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me here.
So last season was the first year of the program. It was the inaugural year, but I want to take you back to when you started playing hockey. How did you get into the sport? How did you start playing at the youth level?
My older brother and my dad were playing hockey, and then a couple years after my brother started, my younger brother and I started as well. I was probably 5, I think. And then it just continued, and so it was a family thing, and we liked it, and now I'm here playing for ASU.
So you started out at the youth level, now you're at ASU. How did you get to ASU? How did you find out about the program, and how did you get to where you are now?
I saw an article that was announcing that ASU was starting the women's team, and I was super excited because I already had my gear out here. Did I skate often? No, but I got in contact with Coach and went out for a prospect skate, and then the rest of it is history.
So last season was a little rough, I guess you could say. You started out with a lot of losses and also a very road-heavy schedule. You scored 5 goals, but I'd be curious to know your impressions on how the season went as a whole from a personal and team perspective.
The team definitely, with all the traveling, there was a lot of bonding going on, and that's really important, especially as a first-year team. The season, it could have been better, but again, it's the first year, small roster. But for the amount of people we do have on the team and did have, we did really well. We, as a first-year team, we couldn't ask for any better.
I think it's safe to say things have improved this year. You've already surpassed your win total from last year. You nearly have scored as many goals as you did last year. And you started the first 6 games of the season at home. What are your thoughts on how this season's gone so far?
This season has definitely gone a lot better. We still have injuries and we've got a short roster again. But, Coach has us out on the ice and just killing us with conditioning, which is so important for a small roster because we need to be able to keep up with these top teams that we are playing. So I think it's going well, and it'll continue to get better, I think.
So you mentioned a rough schedule coming up. You have 4 games this weekend. 3 of them are against ranked teams. A couple weekends after, you play ranked Midland at home, and then in December you're playing GCU. What are your thoughts on how the rest of the season should go from a personal and a team perspective? What are your expectations?
Well, one more win and we have clinched a playoff spot, so let's hope that happens this weekend. And if that happens against Minnesota, that would be amazing because I think they're number 1 or they're up there, so that would be super exciting. For home games, just having all the support from all of our family and friends that come there, it makes it a lot easier to play, and because we want to make everybody else happy as well.
Now, the last series of the calendar year of the 2017 year is going to be played at AZ Ice Peoria against GCU, and you graduate that weekend, so that's possibly your final weekend of games. What are your plans for after graduation, whether it be in hockey or outside the realm of sports?
Well, I'll go home for a little bit, for winter break at least, and then the plan is to somehow make me, or allow me to come back and finish out the season, but we have to figure out a way to do that. As a graduating senior, you only need so many classes to take, or credits, so hopefully we can work something out with that, and then I'll be back. And then if not, I'll just play adult league. That's fine. It's always fun. I just want to stay on the ice.
Awesome. Thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate it. To catch up with everything Danica and her team have done this season and will do the rest of the way out with in-depth stories and analysis, head over to CronkiteSports.com and click on that women's hockey tab. Danica, we wish you and the team the most objective of luck going forward this season. Thank you again for coming in. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great stuff there from Danica and Nick. And we have even more on the women's hockey team as our own Troy Tauscher caught up with the Sun Devils after their 3-week break.
The Arizona State women's hockey team hasn't played a game since October 14th. But during that break, they've been practicing pretty happy, coming off 2 wins against Colorado State and already guaranteeing an improvement in record over last season. After going 2-13 in their inaugural season, the Sun Devils are now 3-2-1 and receiving votes in the ACHA Top 15. Head coach Lindsay Ellis is proud of the strides her team has made, but knows it's important to ward off complacency.
We have a lot more pep in our step compared to last year, but we've talked with them and we can't grow satisfied with what we've done so far. We have to keep moving forward and continue to improve throughout the season.
The long time away from games certainly doesn't mean the team hasn't been working hard. Ellis has a long list of things she wants to see her team improve on going into the rest of the schedule.
Conditioning and the teams that we're playing against are, some of the top-ranked teams. So we're working on defensive zone coverage, net front presence, moving through the neutral zone. Just a lot of things that we saw in our first 3 series that we need to work on moving forward.
The long break will soon turn into a fast-paced series of games for Arizona State. The Sun Devils play 4 games in 3 days in Boulder this weekend, starting on November 3rd with Minnesota and ending on Sunday, November 5th against rival GCU at the WWCHL Showcase. This showcase will go a long way to determining ASU's playoff seedings, so it's definitely something to watch out for. That's all from Oceanside Ice Arena. I'm Troy Tauscher, Cronkite Sports.
Basketball season is finally back in Tempe as Arizona State has started the exhibition portion of their schedule. The first game last Thursday night against Division II Northern State, it didn't go as planned for ASU. The Devils were pushed to the brink in a 98-90 double overtime win. Senior Shannon Evans led the Maroon and Gold with 24 points. Arizona State will be back on the floor, this time on the road for another exhibition on Wednesday, November 1st when they take on the University of San Diego. Now from the hardwood back over to the gridiron, Michael Barron has a Pac-12 South update in this week's edition of Impact.
Thanks, Braiden. On Saturday, the state of Arizona was witness to 2 phenomenal quarterback performances. In Tucson, it was Washington State that got a little dose of Khalil Tate. In a 58-37 win, Tate was an absolute monster. 275 yards through the air, 146 yards on the ground, and 3 touchdowns in all. And in Tempe, USC quarterback Sam Darnold had a day himself. 266 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. But this coming Saturday, Tate and Darnold will meet at the Coliseum in Los Angeles as sole possession of first place in the Pac-12 South is on the line. This game could very well determine who represents the Pac-12 South in the Pac-12 championship game at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara on December 1st. So keep an eye on it. Braiden, back to you at the desk.
Now we may be in the desert, but you can never get too much hockey. We found out about the women's team. Now let's move over to the men's side. They're returning from a long road trip and back to Tempe. Our very own Kylie Meter has more.
60 minutes of mistake-free hockey. That's the expectation of ASU head coach Greg Powers for his goalies. With sophomore Joey DeCord and junior Rylan Pashvitz sharing time in between the pipes, both have the potential to influence the outcome of this season, for better or for worse.
Out of your goaltender is to make the saves that they should make. And they're both good enough and talented enough that every game they're going to make some big saves that maybe they shouldn't because they're talented. But it's a focus thing.
Andrew Matheson is a first-year volunteer coach with the team, primarily focusing his efforts on goaltending. From his perspective, minding the net is one of the tougher positions on this Arizona State team that is only averaging 2.3 goals a game this season.
I think the biggest thing that they need to improve on is basically their mental side. Playing on a new team, it's not easy. They're not exactly walking into a team that's just going to score 10 goals a night, and they have to be kind of held to a higher standard because they're the last line of defense. But I think if they both do a little work on their mental side of the game and they show up every night, I think they're going to be very good college goalies.
Yeah, it's really tough sometimes on tight games. Coming down to it, if it's a close game, you really just gotta stay focused and make sure you make all the saves that you need to make.
For Pashvitz, who allowed 5 goals on 30 shots in his lone appearance this year, it comes down to focus.
It's a little tough to kind of just base Pash's improvement off one game. I wouldn't really say that's fair. I think Pash has gotten better. He's in a much better mental spot this year than he was last year.
Joey DeCord has started 7 out of ASU's 8 games thus far. He ranks in the top half for save percentage among college goalies after nearly posting a shutout in a 1-1 tie against Colgate this weekend. He says he thrives off the pressure of his team's lack of offense and the abundance of shots that come his way each game.
That pressure is being the goalie. I like it. It's honestly my favorite part because I can single-handedly win a game for us. So it's pretty cool having that pressure.
What he has going for him now is he's starting on a very consistent basis, and I think that's a big reason why he's been able to have a pretty solid start to the year. I know his numbers don't really paint that picture, but overall I am, for the most part, pretty happy with him so far this year.
I think for me, if every game I play, I give our team a chance to win the game, I think I've done my job. And then, if I'm able to be consistent on that aspect, I'll have a couple games where I can really dominate and take over the game.
Despite DeCord's improvement, Powers typically doesn't reveal who will get the nod between the pipes for upcoming games. But either one will look to go 60 minutes of mistake-free hockey for a Sun Devil team ranked 15th worst in college hockey for goals allowed per game. In Tempe, I'm Kylie Meter for Cronkite Sports.
Yeah, it is really crazy times on the field and crazy times on social media. Luckily, our fearless leader, Troy Tauscher, joins us this week to give us the very best of what Twitter had to offer over the last week. Troy?
Yeah, thanks, guys. ASU couldn't pull off the upset against USC in football, but I think it's an upset that I'm actually standing here doing this segment. So let's get started with football, actually, and a fan of football who has a way for ASU to win a national championship, as you'll see here. If the point of football was to touch the ball carrier without tackling him, ASU would win the national championship. Now, I'm not sure, but I think what this is suggesting is that they need to transition ASU into like two-hand touch rules. What do you guys think?
Now, I do think a national championship trophy for missed tackles, what would be at the top of it, instead of a Heisman, like one guy just like missing a tackle on another, I think that would be a pretty cool
helplessly diving.
Yeah. Really,
it would be like the missed shoestring tackle. Like you just see a guy like, reaching out, diving like that. I don't know, but ASU fans might be happy at this point because they won a championship in something, and missed tackles might be the path. Now, second tweet here. ASU hockey, looking at a new recruit here. 4 feet tall, flat-footed, immobile, stays deep in the crease, quiet and shy, and covers about 65% of the net. Now, the point of this is, and we were talking about women's hockey earlier, they've been playing pretty well, but their Twitter game is apparently also pretty good. As you see here, their goalie, Jordan, saying, "Didn't realize you guys were doing a scouting report on me. I'm flattered." Now, I've seen them play. I think she's selling herself a little bit short there, but still, Sun Devil hockey playing a good joke on everyone with their net cover.
There's nothing better than a humble student athlete. Clearly, she's doing a great job, like you noted, and to make fun of herself a little bit, that's always great.
And I will say, adding to the scouting report, this goalie's going to have great 5-hole coverage. Might need some work on the blocker and glove sides, though.
Those are a bunch of hockey words.
Barry Melrose.
I will pretend like I know what those terms mean and move on to this third tweet here, heading over to ASU soccer, and it's Christina Edwards who won the game for ASU against Washington the other day, and says, "Guys, a reporter called me Tina today, and I never thought this nickname would catch on to this extent." That reporter, our very own Jose Liriano. Now, guys, the question I want to ask you is, do you have any nicknames?
Well, I'll start. When I played hockey, I did have a nickname. It's Hammer. It came from when I hit a kid when we were 6 years old. Didn't mean to, but it just stuck from there.
Very aggressive. That stayed tuned. You know, that's great. Okay, I go by B-Bell, and I know that's really boring.
I like that there's a story to that one. Like you were
clearly he wins.
You were a jerk to a kid at one time, but there'll be hammers later in the show. But everyone else will have to figure out what that means later. Until then, I think that's all for social media this week. Thanks, guys.
Hey, thank you, Troy. Great stuff as always. Arizona State volleyball hosted Cal and Stanford over the weekend. WCSN volleyball reporter Alex Gall was there and has a weekend of this weekend's action.
Thanks, guys. It was a busy weekend for the Sun Devils, who welcomed in nationally ranked #2 Stanford and California to Wells Fargo Arena. On Friday against Stanford, the Devils struggled early but kept pace with the Cardinal in the first set. Devils were up 2 at one point, but Stanford finished the set on a 9-4 run, taking the set 25-22. Stanford took over in the second set. They hit 50% as a team in the set, led by a 10-kill performance from sophomore outside hitter Catherine Plummer. She finished with 23 kills to lead all scorers, and the Devils dropped the second set 25-16. ASU picked up the pace following the break, working hard in set 3 and taking the first 5 points. Stanford fought back to tie it at 14, but the Devils went on an 8-0 run behind 3 kills in a row from Maluma Okaro. Game point Devils, and an attack error from Plummer seals the deal as ASU steals the third set 25-21. Even though Stanford committed a total of 17 service errors, giving the Devils 22.4% of their total points, ASU dropped the fourth set 25-13, falling in 4 sets to #2 Stanford.
Right now, we're not actually looking at the scoreboard. We're not looking at the record we have. We're looking at, are we getting better as a team? Are we getting better individually? And I think we did. So I think we had a good game.
ASU sophomore outside hitter Ivana Jeremic exited the match after suffering an apparent left ankle injury in the second set. Acting head coach Moreno remained hopeful that she would play Sunday, but Jeremic was not in uniform as the Devils welcomed in the California Golden Bears on Sunday morning. Just hours before first serve, head coach Sonia Tomasevich gave birth to her new daughter, Stella. There is still no word on how long Tomasevich will be out, but the Devils had a match to play nevertheless. The script was much the same on Sunday morning, with the Devils coming out sluggish against the Bears. They blocked ASU 5 times, cruising to a 24-14 victory in the first set. ASU fought back behind freshman Greer Hughes' 6 kills in the second set. After sitting for the entire match on Friday, Hughes came back strong, filling in for the injured Jeremic. 24-22, and it's Okaro finishing it off, beating Presley Anderson to win the set for the Devils. The victory was short-lived, however, as California heated up after the break. The Devils struggled once again in the stretch run, letting California take the third set 25-22. The Bears hit 31.6% in the last 2 sets and dominated ASU, taking the fourth set 25-11. The match 3 sets to 1.
What we all feel is that it doesn't have anything to do with volleyball. Like we all know how to pass the ball, how to hit a ball in the court, how to serve a ball in the court. But really it has to do with like our internal state of mind and our mindset as a team and individuals.
In their next game, the Sun Devils travel to California to face the USC Trojans, who are 19th ranked in the country, next Friday. Reporting in Tempe, Alex Gall, Cronkite Sports.
Well, great stuff there, and I think this is going to be a fun segment. It's the way it is, but with a bit of a Halloween twist. I have questions at us. We'll have to answer them, debate a little bit. Winner's going to get the monologue at the end. You ready to go?
Embrace debate. Let's do it.
All right, ASU football this week. We talked about it a lot. The loss to USC. Who is more to blame in your eyes, the offense or the defense?
It's a simple answer, Jack. It's the defense. They gave up over 600 yards of offense. Sam Darnold, Ronald Jones, Deontay Burnett. It was a travesty. The performance on defense was very bad.
Well, true, but you have to keep in mind the offense was not on the field very long. One of the big things in their 2 wins over Washington and Utah was defense didn't have to play a lot of snaps. They had to play a lot of snaps in that first half, especially this weekend, because the offense is not playing very well.
The analyst with the good prediction there. All right, so my second question to you is going to take it to the hardwood. How much do you judge ASU's basketball struggles against Division II Northern State?
We're judging things now. I have something to help with that.
Oh, my.
Oh, here we go. Basketball, not guilty. Look, I get it. It's a gavel, yes. Look, but basketball, Division II opponent, yes, but I think there were positives to take out of this game. Yes, they had to go to double overtime, but Northern State shot very well from the three-point line. Remy Martin had a good game for ASU. I think there's more positives to build off of going forward.
I'm a firm believer in the motivation factor. There's not much motivation when you're playing Northern State. I think that was the game of their lives, and Arizona State, it was just a typical night in the gym. So not guilty again. Yeah.
So it is Halloween coming up this week. So who is the scariest or most intimidating person in ASU athletics?
This is tough. There are many good candidates. I'm going with Bobby Hurley. I've seen him upset before. Veins are popping out of the side of his head, stomping around on the floor. He's a scary guy.
That's true, but I'm going to go with Phil Bennett, the defensive coordinator of the football team, only because when one of those defensive players makes a mistake in practice, he can get into him. Those guys, they call him Daddy Bennett. So that tells you all you need to know.
He's scary. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so now we will wait and see who's going to get to read this week's monologue. Producers in the studio figuring it out right now. But again, the gavel, I think they need this to judge in there.
Yeah, this is a great addition. We need to do this more often. I really think that the gavel props need to become a weekly thing on this show.
I would agree with that. Oh, look at that, though. See, rolling.
Rookie.
Winner.
Rookie.
All right. In college football, the annual homecoming game is usually reserved for a cupcake opponent, meant to be an easy win to make everyone associated with the program feel proud, if only for a week. This year, ASU tried something different. They went bold, making this season's homecoming game a showdown with Pac-12 powerhouse USC. They were ambitious, planning a stadium stripeout, a tradition usually reserved for the most prestigious fan bases in the country. The goal was to make a statement, prove the Sun Devils were conference contenders on the field, supported by a fan base of through-and-through diehards that could create a memorable scene. And the results of these bold moves? Failure. A loss on the field, a half-hearted effort by the fans in the stands. The Sun Devils tried to validate themselves as elite this weekend. All they really showed is that they're still a second-class program, a step behind the USCs of the world. And that's the way it is.
Hammer bringing the fire. All right, now time for top plays. First, we go to the volleyball court. It's Nicole Peterson, an impressive dig versus Stanford. Stanford, a very good team. The Devils lost the game, but that was a great play by Nicole Peterson.
Yeah, we saw the emotion at the soccer game this weekend, but number 2, it's Christina Edwards winning the game with this wonder strike of a goal from 30 yards. ASU soccer, look at that. Putting right in the corner. ASU getting their first win in over a month on Senior Day, 1-0 over Washington.
Number 1, it's no surprise. It's a Hail Mary to end the first half. Manny Wilkins throwing it up. Knock this ball down, USC. They don't do it. It gets tipped into the air, and Kyle Williams makes the catch. One of the most wacky plays you will see in college football. A 10-minute delay, and ultimately it was ruled a touchdown. About the only bright spot for ASU in that game.
You know, I think Kyle Williams can maybe get a basketball scholarship getting that rebound at the goal line. Very impressive by him, I have to say.
Great work by him, and he's really been a bright spot for this ASU team so far.
Yes, he has. Well, happy Halloween to you.
Thank you.
Good luck for your Dodgers going into the World Series this week.
You don't mean
that. No, probably not. But we will be back here next week. For Braiden Bell, I'm Jack Harris. Thanks for watching.